Tell me your unexplainable scary story. I was attacked, but I don't remember anything about it. By saying the story I'm about to share happened almost exactly 4 years ago, there are a lot of things I do not remember. Some of the information was told to me by others after the fact. That being said, everything is true and really did happen to me. I apologize ahead of time as I know it will be quite lengthy. In 2020 during the pandemic, I had just moved into a really cool old second floor apartment on my town square. It was the first time I had ever lived completely alone in my entire life, and I was truly in love with the place. One day in late July, I had left to go shopping and had locked my apartment, something my mother had practically pounded into me since childhood. I never left my doors or windows unlocked. When I got home from shopping, I noticed a few things weren't where I thought I had left them, and I mentioned this to my cousin Michelle. I told her I thought someone might have been in my apartment while I was gone. After discussing it with her, we came to the conclusion that I must have just forgotten that I moved the items myself, and I didn't think about it again. A couple of nights later, I was up watching scary movies until about 2 in the morning when I decided to get ready for bed. I remember walking into my bathroom to change into PJs and do my nightly routine. That is the last thing I remember until I woke up the next day. When I got out of bed, I immediately noticed something wrong with the clothes I had on. They were those PJ shorts that had the drawstrings around the waist. I always tied the drawstrings to make them fit, but when I stood up, the strings looked like they had broken. They were still tied, yet the shorts were practically falling off me. I told myself I must have moved around a lot in my sleep and the string must have snapped or something. I headed to the bathroom for my morning routine. When I walked by the bathroom mirror, I turned to look at myself. I didn't see anything wrong, but I felt really weird. Out of sorts, even more so than usual after waking up. The longer I was awake, the stranger I started to feel. I noticed I had a headache and my vision was kind of blurry. I went to grab my phone from my nightstand to check the time, but I guess I had forgotten to charge it before going to bed because it was dead. I took it to the living room, found the charger, plugged it in, and waited for it to turn on. When it finally did, I was completely shocked to see that it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This was highly unusual for me. No matter what time I go to bed, I usually wake up around 7 or 8 in the morning. That's when I began feeling slightly panicked. Something was not normal. I rubbed my face with my hands, and that's when I felt that something was wrong with my face. I ran back to the bathroom mirror. This time when I looked, my vision was so blurry I couldn't even see my own face. No matter how close I got to the mirror, it looked like dense fog, like after a hot shower. Except I hadn't run any hot water at all. That's when I realized something was very wrong with me. I was disoriented and confused. I walked back to the living room to check if my phone had charged enough so I could call someone. It was only at 5%, but I decided to keep it plugged in and try calling Michelle or my son anyway. I picked up the phone, and then I just stared at it. I could not remember how to use my phone to call or text anyone. I knew how, but for some reason, I didn't have the ability. I was getting very upset and scared, but mostly frustrated. A flood of messages and missed calls came through, and eventually I managed to text a friend that I was having some sort of emergency and needed someone to contact my sister immediately. My sister lives in an independent living facility because she was born with CP and cannot walk. She uses a wheelchair. I knew she couldn't physically help me, but she could reach my son. I was becoming more and more confused the longer I was awake. My sister got a hold of my son and he was on his way. I thought I should probably go downstairs to unlock the stairway door, but I felt so strange and off balance that I sat on the steps and inched my way down. I unlocked the door only to realize it was already unlocked, and in my confusion, I accidentally locked it instead, so I had to inch my way back up the stairs. Soon my son called and said the door was locked and he couldn't get inside. I had to repeat the entire process all over again. When I opened the door, my son, his girlfriend, and my 7-month-old granddaughter were there. He took one look at me, his eyes widened in shock, and he said, "Jesus Christ, mother, what happened to your face?" I had no idea what he meant. Back in the bathroom mirror, I finally saw the horrific sight. I had a huge goose egg hematoma in the middle of my forehead, the size of a tennis ball. My right eye was completely swollen shut with a massive black eye. My left eye was partially swollen too. It explained the 14 hours of sleep, the confusion, the headache, the blurry vision. I told my son everything I remembered, except for the drawstring. Michelle arrived and insisted I go to the ER. More injuries kept showing up, bruises shaped like large fingerprints fingerprints on my upper arms. Not mine. I'm tiny, 5 feet tall, 117 pounds. Red marks around both wrists and ankles. Rug burn type scrapes on my shins and knees. I was shocked and still had zero memory of the missing 14 hours, just a complete blank. At the local hospital, which is basically a glorified Band-Aid station, the nurse practitioner kept asking what happened. I kept telling her I had no idea, maybe I fell. She asked if I was in a relationship. I said no. She didn't believe me and called the police. She then told me very firmly, I can tell you with 100% certainty that you did not cause these injuries, someone did this to you. The police never came to talk to me, and I was discharged into Michelle's care. I couldn't be left alone, so I was to stay the night with Michelle and my Aunt Kay. They told me to call an ambulance immediately if the confusion, headache, nausea, or vomiting got worse. 2 hours later, that's exactly what happened. I was horribly dizzy and tried to eat something. It had been over 24 hours since I'd eaten. As soon as I did, the hallucination started. First auditory. The movie we were watching suddenly had completely different dialogue. Then the characters on screen started speaking directly to me. I was aware that I was hallucinating but had zero control over it. Then the paranoia started. My daughter called to check on me. She lives in a different town. And even though I was on the phone with her, I became convinced she and several family members were outside the house talking about me. Then I began vomiting. My cousin called 911. When the ambulance arrived, the police came too. They asked which hospital I wanted to go to. I named one I would never willingly choose, which alarmed my cousin, but I insisted, so they took me there. I wish they hadn't. It was very late, 25 minutes away, and none of my family met me there. The hospital didn't call anyone for information. I don't remember anything from that point. I must have been severely confused and hallucinating because I was involuntarily committed to the psychiatric floor for 11 days due to a traumatic brain injury. I still have absolutely no recollection of what happened to me. And honestly, I don't want to remember. All the medical professionals say I had to have been attacked by someone. It's terrifying to think about. Was someone hiding in my apartment that night? Was it one of the carnival workers I saw earlier that day? Or worse, was it someone I know and still have in my life? I'm not sure which is worse, not knowing anything or remembering everything forever. If you read this entire post, thank you. I've been reluctant to share, but writing it out is strangely therapeutic. I've always been afraid of our garbage disposal, but I trusted my wife. My wife has insomnia and often does chores when she can't sleep. It's been that way for so long I've stopped noticing. Usually I don't even wake up, but a few nights in a row she started running the garbage disposal a lot, off and on throughout the night, sometimes for a minute or two. Of course I couldn't sleep through that. One late night I went downstairs to check on her. She was in her PJs, bent over the sink, staring into the drain. She was leaning so close that some of her hair had pooled in the bottom of the sink. Lose something? I asked. She gasped and snapped upright. You scared me, she said. She looked jumpy, which made me uneasy too. She was holding something in her hand. What's that? I asked. Nothing, a slice of turkey, she said guiltily. She had balled it up into a gray-pink blob from squeezing it so hard. It doesn't go in the garbage disposal, I said. To say. Right, she said. Sorry, I'm half asleep. She dropped it into the trash under the sink. There was a pack of sliced turkey on the counter, half eaten. But I was the one who ate lunch meat, and I hated turkey. I didn't remember telling her to buy any. Hungry? She asked, noticing where I was looking. No, I said. My body had gone cold. Something felt very wrong. She casually put the lunch meat back in the fridge. Still facing away from me, she said, actually, I did lose something in the sink, a gemstone, a stone from my ring. She turned and shrugged. I'm an idiot, sorry. Which did you lose? I asked. I tried to sound calm. She pointed at her ring. A little one, right here. You wouldn't have noticed it. It's really small. I doubted that. I bought her the ring, but the kitchen was too dark to see clearly. You want me to fish it out for you? I offered. She smiled. Sure. I went to the sink. A sudden urge to run hit me hard, but I forced it down. I loved my wife. I trusted her, even when she was basically sleepwalking. I reached into the drain. It was damp and warmer than I expected. The bumpy edge of the blade was almost hot, probably from her running the disposal for so long. It's really small, she whispered. She came closer, leaning against the wall. The switch for the disposal was right next to her shoulder. My finger brushed something hard. She shifted her arm, the one near the switch. I ripped my hand out of the drain. What? She asked. Did you cut yourself? I'm fine, I said. My voice shook. Are you? She said. Yes, I couldn't find anything, sorry. That's okay, she said, yawning. She went back upstairs. She moved slowly, obliviously, like a sleepwalker. When I followed her, she was already asleep. None of it made any sense. The turkey, the lie about the ring, the disposal running all night. I went back downstairs. The sink looked normal, drops of water around the rim, a waxy smear of grease on the stainless steel. I put my hands on either side of the drain and stared into the black hole. Nothing unusual, except the vague threat of something sharp hidden in the dark. Then I heard it, a low, soft gurgling sound. I bent closer. Maybe it was just water in the pipes, but it sounded organic, like the gurgle a baby might make. Then I felt warm air puff against my ear in little bursts, as if the drain were breathing. I pulled away. Just to test something, I grabbed a slice of turkey and pushed it past the drain flap. The garbage disposal roared to life, metallic grinding rattled the entire house. Finally it stopped. Heart pounding, I dropped the rest of the turkey in and pushed it down with a wooden spoon. The disposal turned on again. I yanked the spoon out. The end was gnawed to splinters. I stood there listening to the chewing. Then I heard the faucet turn on. My wife was behind me. The disposal stopped. She turned off the water. The water helps the food go down, she explained. I was frozen. She grabbed my arms and started speaking quickly. It had started a few nights ago when she fed the drain crumbs, then meat. It liked meat, so she got more. Whatever it was down there, growing, nesting. It was getting more active, more hungry. She apologized for using the grocery cart so much, but it was worth it. She had tamed the thing. I knew you'd be safe earlier, she said. I'll show you. She wet her hand, dipped it in sugar, and shoved it down the drain. Stop! I screamed. She pulled her hand out, untouched, completely clean. See? She said. He won't bite. It feels good. She sugared her hand again and put it back down the drain. It kinda tickles, and it's so warm. I couldn't speak. "Wanna try?" she asked. She wet my hand and dipped it in the sugar. I let her. I was curious, more curious than afraid. Then my hand went into the drain. A loud, sickening crunch. I remember that. And nothing else. Somehow I tied a tourniquet. Somehow I called an ambulance. Shock blocked everything. The blood, the pain. Nobody ever found my hand. Nobody ever found my wife either. She took the cash, the jewelry, the second car. All of it mine. The cops put out an alert for the car. I don't know. Today, a plumber came to check the disposal. He had never seen anything like it. The shredder and motor were never installed. It was basically an empty container under the drain. And you said it was working? He asked. Yeah, I told him. My wife used it for years. Thank you for watching. Share your thoughts about this in the comments. See you tomorrow.